Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's show. I'm really pleased tonight to have on with me Tom Stringham. Tom, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you, Jacob?
Doing all right. Glad to have you with us.
Yeah, good to be here.
So, Tom is an economist and PhD student right now, or seeking your PhD from the University of
Toronto. Yeah.
Toronto. And are you originally from Toronto? Is that where you're from?
I'm from Calgary, Alberta, out west,
Oh,
Western
okay.
Canada. Yeah, so I'm Canadian, but not from Toronto.
What is it with Canada and producing a lot of really great intellectuals lately? I'm a big Jordan Peterson fan who was at the University of Toronto. I don't know what it is, what's going on up there in Canada, but you guys seem to have some sharp people coming out of there.
It's interesting. There are a lot of sort of conservative figures out of Canada, and the same is true, I think, of California. I think there's sort of something to do with living in a liberal place. Produces sort of these heterodox thinkers. I don't know.
Yeah, I based on who your guys' current prime minister is, I can't imagine that conservatism is ravingly popular in Canada all around, considering who ended up being the prime minister.
No, I wouldn't say so. There's a pretty healthy subculture, pretty healthy conservative movement, but not that is really politically visible. I won't get into that too much, but
Well,
yeah.
I hope it grows. I always kind of had a thing where I kind of dogged on Canadians more because I didn't really know any, and it was just kind of a funny thing to do. But ever since I got really into Jordan Peterson, and there were others who came out and that I've learned about, I'm like, oh man, Canada's got some sharp people. So I have new respect for my Canadian brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So anyway, tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you came to where you are now as a PhD student in economics.
Sure. So I'm from Calgary. I'm from Western Canada, um, and I'll just do a little bit of a chronological perspective. I guess this is important. So when I was a teenager, I had a faith crisis, as we call them now, sort of earlier than most people tend to.
Mm-hmm.
So it was before mission, before marriage, all that kind of stuff. Um, and so for a few years, I basically had no testimony. I had rejected all of the truth claims of the church, um, and it took me a while to get back to faith, and eventually was able to go on a mission at 20, um, which at the time I was still a little weak heading out of the mission, but was able to work through, and the mission was a great experience. I got back, and since then, since getting back from my mission, I've been writing on and off about the church and church related topics online. I had a blog for a while. That was years ago now, um, but then just in various places, contributing articles now and then. And yeah, I'm a PhD student in economics, um, and I'm married. I have three little kids, and yeah, that's me.
Nice. Well, so when you kind of went through your kind of faith crisis that you went through, did you go kind of the full atheist route? I mean, completely abandoning faith altogether, or was it just problems with the Joseph Smith story, or kind of where did that kind of go? How deep?
Yeah, so it did go to the to losing faith in God entirely. I think that's pretty common. So for me, it was honestly, it was Wikipedia. I went down a rabbit hole in Wikipedia and just heard all these things I hadn't heard before. Like I'd never heard about multiple first visions, and then there was
Mm-hmm.
Book of Abraham and historicity of the Book of Mormon, all these different things that just kind of as a kid I hadn't really ever studied these things, hadn't encountered too much of these
Mm-hmm.
tough issues, and so it really threw me and totally dislodged me from faith entirely. I sort of threw out the whole thing pretty quickly.
Was there
As
some? Oh, go ahead.
just as young people are sort of want to do, is just sort of radical shifts in your belief system very quickly and going from one extreme to the other.
And did you, so what, was there something in particular you kind of sum up that helped kind of bring you back?
So for me, I mean, it did help, so I was living at home with my parents, and they were help. And it was helpful to read apologetics and to know that there were people who had gone through these things and studied these things, and there were answers, and at least genuine approaches to wrestle with these things, or genuine attempts to wrestle with these things. For me, it wasn't so much finding specific answers to every single question as much as making a decision to place my faith in God, and to repent, really, because an element of losing one's testimony, and there's a spiritual element to it, and where we choose to sort of give up on faith a little bit. There are legitimate questions, of course, there always are, but also there's a spiritual dimension to it. And for me, it was important to just decide to repent of undue doubt, and just start making good choices and doing good things and reading the scriptures, and preparing for a mission and that sort of thing. And through that process, gradually, faith builds back.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome, man. I've kind of a similar story in that I never left the church. I always tell people I never had a faith crisis, kind of had a faith remodeling though that I had to do, as after my mission, had to confront sort of the hard questions. And I think though, like with you, I kind of went the same route. I didn't get all obsessed about like the Kinderhook plates and a Book of Abraham. Like that stuff, obviously it was there, but my questions were more fundamental. They were about, because if there's a God, and if Jesus Christ in the Bible was essentially who the Bible says that he was, it's not that big of a jump to say, hey, he called a prophet in modern times. It's a much smaller jump, but those foundations are by no means a given,
Right.
And so,
yeah, that's true.
And I found that a lot of people, they don't build a firm foundation first on those things. And unless you really have, placed your faith in God and in that proposition, and placed your faith in the proposition that Jesus is the Christ, it's hard. That's the foundation you have to build off of.
It's true. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, we're going to obviously get into some of the topic here that we're here to discuss tonight. But before we get into that, I thought I'd just ask if people here that are listening want to connect with you, ask you additional questions, connect with you somehow online, how could they do that?
So I don't have a blog right now or anywhere I'm permanently writing or anything. And I'm not active on Twitter right now either. So really the only reliable place.
What do you do for fun, man?
I've been reading a lot of books, actually. That's what I've been doing for fun.
It's better than what the rest of us are doing.
It's been, I set a goal on Goodreads, and I've been reading a lot of books. But Facebook or email. So I mean, if you add me on Facebook and you have mutual friends, maybe I'll accept, and you can find my email address somewhere and email me if you really want to connect. But I don't have a permanent web presence right now, really. So
no problem. Well, I found you through Facebook, and I've enjoyed interacting with you on there. So what we'll do is we'll take a quick break, and then we'll get right into the subject matter. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and hit the subscribe button. Also, if you want more content, including the podcast, go to thoughtful-faith.com. Thanks for watching.